Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We're still working on Measure for Measure, and today we get to hear from the Duke as we just about wrap up Act 3, Scene 1. The Duke, remember, was visiting Claudio, who's in jail and scheduled to die tomorrow morning because he got his common-law wife Julietta pregnant. The Duke doesn't necessarily like this or agree with it, but he's hiding out as a friar so that he can keep an eye on things without being there to keep an eye on things, so to speak. And first he talked to Claudio and he's like, you should prepare yourself to die, that kind of a thing. But then Isabella shows up to talk to Claudio and tells Claudio that Angelo propositioned her and wanted her to trade her virginity for his potential release. This is the thing that gets me, is that every time it's talked about, it's like if she sleeps with Angelo might let Claudio free. It's not a definite thing. He might do it. So I think that she's perfectly within her rights. And even if that wasn't the case, she's perfectly within her rights to not want to go sleep with Angelo, which she very much doesn't, because Angelo is gross and it's a horrible offer. And also she's about to become a nun. So at first Claudio understood that and was like, yeah, no, you shouldn't have to do that. That's gross. But then thinking about it a little bit more, he's like, actually, I'm really afraid of dying. And if he's going to do this with you, then he must know some way to make it not be a sin. And yesterday she was like, nope, not having it. That is not okay. Total wrong answer. You're going to die. Get ready. Bye. And she goes to leave. And the Duke stops her really quickly and he's like, hang out for just 1 second. He turns to Claudio and he says, just so you're aware, Angelo was just testing her. Your freedom was never actually on the table. So yeah, just prepare yourself. Just prepare yourself now to die. I'm going to go talk to her for a second. And then he goes to talk to her, but he asks the provost to leave them alone. He has to, do that so that he can be alone with a lady, but assure that he's not going to do anything untoward with this lady. And the provost is like, yeah, sure, I'll be over there. Trusting the Duke because he thinks that the Duke is a monk at the time. And so then the Duke says to Isabella, he's like, you're totally within your rights. Angelo is off base. But by the way, have you heard of a woman named Mariana? And Isabella's like, I think so. And he's like, well, actually, Mariana was engaged to Angelo. But between the time that they got engaged and when they were supposed to get married, Mariana's brother was killed in a shipwreck, and also on that ship was her dowry. So since her dowry and her brother were no longer in the picture, Angelo just dropped her like a sack of potatoes. He was like, no, he called off the engagement and bolted. But Mariana is still kind of in love with him. And Isabella's like, what does this have to do with any, like, how is this helpful information? And the Duke says, well, this forenamed maid hath yet in her continuance of her first affection. His unjust kindness, that in all reason should have quenched her love, hath, like an impediment in the current, made it more violent and unruly. Go you to Angelo, answer his requiring with a plausible obedience, agree with his demands to the point, only refer yourself to this advantage. First, that your stay with him may not be long, that the time may have all shadow and silence in it, and that the place answer to convenience. This being granted in course, and now follows all. We shall advise this wronged maid to steed up your appointment. Go in your place. If the encounter acknowledge itself hereafter, it may compel him to her recompense. And here, by this, is your brother saved, your honor untainted, the poor Mariana advantage, and the corrupt deputy scaled. The maid will I frame and make fit for his attempt. If you think well to carry this as you may, the doubleness of the benefit defends the deceit from reproof. What think you of it? So, apparently the Duke has read All's Well That Ends Well, because there's a very similar plot point in there. So the Duke brought up Mariana because she's still in love with Angelo, and he's like, if we do this whole like switcheroo thing, then she gets to sleep with the man who's supposed to be her husband. Perhaps he will fall back in love with her and they can actually get married like they were supposed to in the first place. We'll call out Angelo's inappropriateness And we can do all of this without hurting your honor. So what do you think? He's like, and also the fact that there's so many benefits that come out of this. Telling the one little lie, saying that you'll be there when actually it's going to be Mariana that's there, is, forgivable in the eyes of God. And Isabella is like, you're kind of making sense, so let's make that happen. So they decide that this will be the plan. They're going to do a switch and bring in Mariana, who is in love with Angelo and would want to sleep with him, and so that Isabella, who is not in love with him and does not want to sleep with him, doesn't have to. But she's going to make sure that the time and place where she meets Angelo, that it makes total sense for her to leave immediately after, that it's completely dark and silent in there, and that it's like a decent place to go. Like, this isn't going to be an affair in a back alley or anything like that where somebody else might stumble upon them. So Isabella goes off to tell Angelo that she will take him up on his offer. And the Duke goes off to find Mariana and see if she is up for playing this little trick on Angelo. And that's the end of Act 3, Scene 1. So what do you think? Is it going to work? Do you remember? Did it work in All's Well That Ends Well? Considering the title of that play, probably. Yeah, right? Right? Anyway, I will see you tomorrow for more as we dig further into this play and see if Angelo gets what's coming to him. Mwah.